The government has identified regional development agencies as key enablers and drivers of socio-economic development under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. This week on Inside Government, we are focusing on regional development agencies, their role and the responsibility in driving up economic development at the regional as well as local level. We're joined by the Cabinet Secretary in charge of East African Community, ASAL, as well as Regional Development. This is Peninah Malonza. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
And of course for sharing your insight with us. Help us understand, what would you say is the status of regional development agencies in Kenya today?
Well, thank you very much. We have 6 regional development authorities in our country today. They were created by an act of parliament, paper number 2 of 1990, and of course revised in 1992. And basically what these regional development authorities stand for is over time, the government looked at the development since independence and they realized that it was scaled. Some regions were still lagging behind in development. And so the government began doing a very concerted efforts so that they can balance the development in the country. And that's when they created these 6 development authorities between 1970 and 1994. Mm-hmm. They are defined on the basis of their drainage areas, either by large rivers, by lakes, or by large water bodies. And that's why we have today we have the Coast Development Authority that basically is adjacent to the ocean, which is a large water body. We also have Ewasonyiro North and Ewasonyiro South, of course, attached to the Ewasonyiro River. We also have the KFDA, which is Kerio Valley Development Authority, attached to the Kerio Valley River. And of course, we have the Lake Basin, which is now attached to Lake Victoria. So those are the ones that we have. But of course, you know, in our space of regional development as well as arid and semi-arid, we have national drought management that runs across the country, matters drought mitigation. So these are the development authorities that we have in the country, and if you have heard me mention them well, of course the coast development takes care of the coastal region, Ewasonyiro North, of course the northern part of Kenya, of course South taking the other part of Kajiado and all that, Narok, and of course Rift Valley and Lake Basin taking care of Nyanza. So that's how they are spread across the country. And of course the greatest aim was for them to initiate and coordinate as well as implement projects of higher magnitudes in terms of multi-purpose projects. And of course the nature of these integrated development authorities, they are not aligned to administrative boundaries. They run across many other counties. For example, the Coast Development Authority is catering for not only the 6 counties within the coastal area, but extending all the way to Garissa. And so they're not necessarily in one county, but they are traversing over counties. And with this, then they're able to come up with projects that are multi-purpose and can really benefit these multifaceted counties. And so that's where we are. So today we are in Coast Development Authority, where we are inspecting some of the projects that have been able to do in this country. But I must mention that indeed the development authorities have really done fantastic work for this country. And allow me to quote Kerio Valley Development Authority that was able to do the Takwal Dam, and also the Tana Athi Development Authority. I think that's one more we had left out. And Tana Athi Development Authority was able to do Kiambere and Masinga Dam. And those 3 dams today form the basis, the foundations of hydropower in this country. So they were able to really contribute to the development of this country as a whole in terms of energy sector. And of course, we don't work in isolation. So the kind of projects that they come up with or generate or initiate projects that are more sectoral. So they don't work alone. For example, if it is the Takwel Dam, they developed the dam, they funded it over to KenGen, they're running it together with the community.
Yeah.
So beyond the higher magnitude kind of projects is the other whole agenda of livelihoods. So some of the projects that we are coming up with beyond water, it's in the happy culture, where we're doing quite a lot in the agriculture, in the farming area, irrigation, small farmer irrigation, setups within these counties. So there's quite a lot that they are doing. And for me, I think this is actually the real sector that is going to transform this country, because I must speak this because I've been a cabinet secretary for Minister of Tourism, and I know there I was just looking at how we can attract the foreign exchange to this country. But believe me, when it comes to these development authorities, we are touching the hustler, that person at the bottom. When we teach him how to do fishing or how to generate their own figurelets, and then of course grow their population of the fish or in the ponds, or when we do this irrigation, small irrigation in this ASAL land where there is no water, and we see again crops doing very well and very high yields. We actually fighting the food insecurity in this country, but we are also changing the livelihoods of the Kenyans.
Very good. You know, when you look at sessional paper number 2 of 1990, which established regional development, I mean, it was very, very detailed, and it captured the fact that regional development agencies were meant to drive economic and social development at the regional level. When you look at it 32 years down the line, do you think this mandate has been achieved?
Well, I agree it has been achieved, because you've heard me mention some of the mega dams that this regional development have been able to do in this country, the Takwel Dam, the Masinga, and of course the Kebere Dam, that not only on the regional basis of spurring the socio-economic development, but also spur the economic growth of the entire country in terms of the energy generation. But I want to believe that if you look at the cost and even the facility that we are in today, this is Mwananchi Cottage, hotel that has quite a number of facilities in terms of conferencing, and it's going to really help this region also grow in terms of MICE, which we call is meeting, incentives, and events in this area. But beyond this is looking at some of the projects that we have. For example, the Mwache Dam that is just coming up. And just thinking about how much a dam and the vision behind it, when the Coast Development Authority began thinking about this Mwache Dam, they looked at the towns of Mombasa and looked at the towns of Kilifi, and they realized in future we'll be in a place where we cannot provide water for these two mega cities that are coming up. Again, if you look at the Boche factory that we have, it is actually enhancing value chain, because it's a mango factory, and basically for us to have that mango factory, there is actually the whole agenda of assisting the communities to begin growing mangoes where they can sell to the factory, and of course the factory continues with the value chain. And so we are seeing a lot of change in terms of improvement in the livelihoods of these people. People were actually doing livestock, also now doing both livestock and doing a little bit of farming of fruit trees that do not need a lot of attention, yet they have economical benefit to the family. And so for me, I think they are really transformative, and I believe they have achieved, they are still achieving. We have not reached there, but they are still achieving the agenda and the purpose that they came into existence for.
Yeah. some people say that the golden era of regional development is well past us, and they argue that when you look at some of the projects that were established by regional development, like Takwel Gorge, like the Masinga Dams, which contributes about almost 90% of the country's hydro electricity in Kenya. Are they right? That the golden era of...
No, I don't think they're right, because of course I must agree that the regional development authorities really were initiated long time before the local governments, before our constitution, to be precise. And by that it means that they never took care of the county government's, operation and probably involvement. But if you look at our county governments, and if you look at what I've just said about these regional development, they transverse counties, and of course they are anchored on the many. They are anchored on the many natural resources that we have, like rivers, of course, like lakes. And we're trying to look at how, if it's Lake Victoria, how it can benefit not only the Kisumu County, but running all the way to Siaya and all the way to Homa Bay County, where that natural resource can benefit. We come up with a project that is more sectoral, but also traversing across several counties, where these counties can benefit. Remember, these are the counties today, as we speak of the 47 counties, they are running on their own, and they are, defined entities that are actually doing their own operations. And rarely do you find them having these projects that probably are traversing other counties. But you see, this is an opportunity where we can really benefit a lot from the natural resources that we have, especially the water bodies that we have. Yeah.
When you look at the Executive Order number 2, of 1990 that established RDAs, we are talking about more than 30 years ago. I mean, of course, it was revised back in 1992. Is it high time that we looked into policies and regulations around regional development?
Actually, you're very right, and you're speaking like you've been in our offices, because basically that was my assignment number 1 when I came in November, and we have already developed a policy, because we realized the policy that we are using 30 years ago was outdated. Of course, not 30 years, but the one for 2010 was a bit outdated by the fact that it has lasted for over 13 years. And so we're coming up with a policy that has already been presented for approval at the cabinet level. And basically what we are looking at, there are 2 issues there that we are correcting. One is the whole issue of recognizing the new governance that has been entrenched in our constitution, that is the county governments, and defining the role of the county government when it comes to regional development authority. And number 2, we are correcting some of the errors and anomalies that were done over some time back, where some of the directorates were actually transferred to other ministries. And actually we saw these directorates for a period of 8 years, they were transferred more than even 3 times. And that messed up the whole plan for regional development. And so those are, that's the new policy that we have, the Development Authority Policy 2023. Of course, we developed it towards the end of in November. So that is the development. We're also coming up with a bill, the Development Authority Bill, that is already going through participation. And I think one of the contention areas we had was the whole agenda of the counties feeling like they have no role, or basically this should be devolved. And we went through the court process, and they were referred back to the Intergovernmental Technical Committee so that they can define what roles goes to the county governments and what roles is retained by the national government. And I think we are at a very good space today, because already the IGTC has already defined what needs to go to the county government, their participation role, and our whole function, our whole functions that we can do as national government. And we are at an agreement now with the county governments, and I think we are in the final stages now of finally finishing the process, and of course now publishing. But we have this bill that is also going through participation, so that also people out there in the county government can participate and also give their insights on what they feel. Remember again, the two levels of government work together, and there's quite a lot of programs that we are carrying out together. By the fact that we began before the new dispensation of the Constitution, most of our RDAs, including Coast Development Authority, have already begun embracing working with the county governments and also working with the communities. So they've really metamorphosed to, to the rhythm of the Constitution, even before putting everything in law. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I like the fact that you're bringing in the aspect of synthesizing regional development with a new dispensation around county government. And governors have in the past said that some of regional development authorities, are clawing into their territories. Mm-hmm. And so this has brought about, a little bit of conflict and tension. Mm-hmm. So this bill, do you think it is a panacea to dealing with the existing tension between some regional development agencies and county governments?
Yeah, it is, because it has been, of course, debated by the county government through the Council of Governors. And I think at this participation level, we are actually throwing the whole agenda to the public so that they can give us their views in terms of what we want to redefine, re-engineer the regional development authorities. So I think this is one tool that is really going to set peace for all of us, and of course not only setting peace but also redefining the roles of the county governments and the roles of the national government. And so I believe this is a shared function because of course everything that besides the policy development, everything else that is done, whether by Minister of Water, by Minister of Agriculture, we're only doing it in the spaces of the county government. And there's no Kenya without the 47, and there's no 47 without Kenya. So I think this is what we need to understand about this country and how we need to operate and how we need to, work together. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at the capacity of the counties, again, for example, if you look at the Takwal Dam, it is not easy for any county just to come up and, resource mobilize, for such a huge program. And again, at the basis of the creation of the regional development authorities, they are defined as per their basins, their drainage areas. So that means we are capitalizing on the water bodies that we have in this country so that we can do development. And basically our major areas of development is actually in the multi-purpose dams that can be used for hydro generation, can be used for irrigation, can be used for domestic. We're also doing a little bit of irrigation where we are actually not doing the large-scale one, especially when we are operating within the communities. But you can see with the Tana Athi, we have already begun the Tana Delta rice growing. And believe me, if it was not El Nino, the whole story of buying, rice from other countries would have stopped with this project. And I want to believe in future, Kenya is going to grow its own rice. We don't have to buy rice. When we have these huge rivers, we have these lakes, no, we need to grow our own food, and we can do that. Mm-hmm. And we have the capacity to do that through the regional development authorities. Look at Uganda, and our friend there who visited just the other day, at Karamajong, they are doing 2,000 acres of maize and other crops. And they've been able to feed their own country, and now they're asking so that they can sell some to Kenya. Yet in Turkana, we can do the same and supply this country and get this country out of food insecurity that we always cry, and you've been there since independence. Look at Kenya, and I mean China, and I would want to use China. In 1989, they had a severe famine in that country. China today has 1.4 plus, billion people. And this country is able to feed itself. And I can tell you they grow a lot of rice and other crops. Why can't Kenya feed herself? Because over and again we talk of this famine, and I'm very happy that I'm in a ministry that is going to deal with these droughts, that is going to deal with the emergencies of El Nino and all that. And all is about looking at this and these resources that we have, and trying to come up with plans and strategies that we can really use them for the benefit of the people. Mm-hmm. Look at this just exiting El Nino. How much water was flowing around? A lot of water, causing a lot of damage. It is high time that we think in the spectrums of how we can really harness all this water beyond generational power to even irrigation, to even storage, where we can use this water in future.
The fact that you are bringing in the issue of China, and it is true, we can borrow what is being referred to as the Chinese economic miracle, which has seen the country uplifting more than 700 million people out of poverty in less than 30 years. And when you look at provinces like Sichuan, Heilongjiang, they borrowed the concept of regional development to drive socioeconomic agenda. And so you have been in this ministry for less than 3 months now.
Yeah.
How do you plan to reinvigorate the RDAs to make them much more efficient, to make them to accelerate their economic development in this country?
Seriously, I agree with you on this regional development. This is an idea that Kenya borrowed. You remember in the history we learned about Tennessee Valley, and I believe this is an idea that we borrowed from there, how the valley spurred the development of the country, and you quoted very well China on that agenda. We are actually redefining and re-engineering these regional developments, basically redefining their functions, of course in the essence of time, in the essence of the time of the developments that we've met as a country, one being the Constitution of Kenya that has now given us 2 levels of government, and number 2, re-looking at their strategic niche that they can actually quickly spur development. And I'm very happy that I'm coming into this ministry and in a regime of a government where they are actually emphasizing on quite a number of pillars that are really relevant to the regional development. One of the pillars that we have is the pillar of value addition, creation of jobs and all that. And I believe that if you look at some of the problems that we have in this country, or challenges that we have, one is on value addition. We grow a lot of, for example, avocados, but you find that rarely they rot in the farms. Probably we don't have market and all that. So this is the niche as we redefine. And as we formulate the policy and the bill, it will give a very good strategic position for RDAs to do well in this country. And of course, taking into perspective of the county government participating and enhancing our work in the region.
Is it in your qualified opinion that we need to expand or merge some of regional development agencies?
Well, we may not merge, but if we go back to what I said, what are some of the projects that they do? They are multi-sectoral. We may not merge because they are defined by their basins or drainage areas. So if you look at cost, basically we're looking at the resources that we have, the natural resources, which could be rivers that are only found in coast, which could be the ocean that is only in coast, and it is not in a Rift Valley. If you go to Lake Basin, we are talking about a natural resource called the lake that we have. And besides using this lake for probably fishing, for tourism and all that, we want to see how we can use this natural resource using a more sectoral approach, where probably the blue economy will do their work, where probably we'll also do the work of, we will see the tourism also do the water buses and all that. And we maximize the use of this natural resource. And so that is where we may not merge them, because Kerio Valley will never, river will never move to any other section of this country. And basically because we are attached to the drainage area and developing projects that are more purpose and more sectoral, then we may have to retain them the way they are.
When you look at some of the RDAs, and for example, when you look at the Coast Development Authority, you know, it transcends more than 5 counties of this country, which is quite an expansive area. And when you look at the budget, you know, assigned to the authority, you're talking about less than R1 billion shillings. Clearly, how then do we expect them to deliver on their mandate when the budget is too constricted?
That's true, but then I'll look at the existence of this Coast Development Authority. How long has it been in space? What have they been able to do? Because let me tell you, what is killing this country is the fact that we don't think outside the box. And this is the high time we need to think outside the box. If forever Kenya has been borrowing money for their budget, this is the time to think, when do we stop borrowing money to run our own development in the country? So we're looking at the sustainability of these regional development authorities so that they can stand on their own and they can fund their programs. Again, looking at some of other programs that we're introducing in coast. For example, we've just done a mango factory in Tana River. And our plan was to work with the farmers so that they can begin now growing mango trees, so that they can bring to the factory, we buy, and then of course we see how best we can support them and grow them economically. So you look at this and you see that, yeah, we've made a step forward, but then we are again affected because we needed to spur. Because remember again, mango trees take some time to grow. But I'm very happy because the president has also introduced the 15 billion trees, and my ministry specifically has been given fruit trees. So I know within this, that space of climate change agenda, then I'll have to draw out a number of mango trees to these communities within this area, because basically we are planting all these trees in the space of Kenya. And so if I had a program like that, I'll marry it within the other programs so that I can benefit. Yeah.
And what I'm getting from you is that, you know, what you're trying to create is an environment whereby regional development authorities, you know, they become self-sufficient in terms of budget. But before you get there, how do you plan to engage with the National Treasury to ensure that before they become self-sustaining budget-wise, they are well-funded to get there?
Well, we're still working with the National Treasury, and of course, you know where we are coming from. The physical space that we have is not really encouraging, and you know, economically, the country was down for some time, is now we're recovering. And so we also want to go with the speed of our government, because you cannot stretch yourself so much, yet you don't have the resources that you need to stretch that much. So we'll go with the speed. We are negotiating, and I want to believe that we will also, as we redefine and re-engineer these RDAs, will now begin you know, becoming feasibility in terms of the work that we do, and also redefining that niche or that strategic position that we need to occupy in this country, and of course we are occupying today.
I want to find out from you, what legacy do you expect to leave within the RDAs before you exit?
One is to make them sustainable, as I've said, you know, self-reliance in terms of doing their budget and in their operations. And number two, of course, I want really to define them in terms of their very strategic position in this country. And I'm also very happy because as we do the regional development agenda, we are also doing the other bigger space of region, where we are working with the rest of the countries and coming up with mega projects like the Northern Corridor that are going to see us open our country in terms of trading with the other countries, with our neighbors, of course, the other ESC member states, and of course ensuring that we're operating in a peaceful environment and therefore working on the agenda of peace. As you know, quite a number of our member states are really not stable in terms of peace, and so we're working together, pulling together in the agenda of peace keeping in our territories and ensuring that we coexist.
Very good.
Yes.
And of course, I know the issue of the East African community is played for, and of course, we'll create more time so that we can have this kind of discussion around ASC with you.
Sure.
And we also know that Somalia is in the process of signing the instrument of ascension, and I will be touching base so that you can give us more information around that. Madam CS, your time is highly appreciated, and we look forward to having you more in the future.
Thank you.
Very good. Asante sana. Well, you see, from San Francisco to Shenzhen in China, which have become major industrial powers in the world, regional development, they have a space in the economic and social development of any country, and Kenya should embrace and embolden regional development authorities to realize their full potential. O'Brien Kimani is my name. Thank you very much for your time. You have been watching Inside Government. Until next week, have a good time.